This is gonna be about a completely different thing that we've gone through lately. Fuck yeah! I'm pretty pumped to be here, especially because I'm so fucking early here. It's really like, okay, the time management is on fucking point today, which is incredible for me because I do just have to do certain things also for school. And yeah, I'm just way faster than I've used to be, and this is just amazing. It's just really amazing. And yeah, today we're actually going to we're going through, what is it called? Actually, I'm gonna show it you afterwards. Methods of Persuasion, a summary and review from the powermoves.com website. Why this website again? Because yeah, these book summaries are way shorter. And this is something that I want to just try once again, because I do not really want to say that it's just bothering me that all these summaries that I've been going through lately were just so long. But at the end, it kind of also feels like okay, like yeah, it just feels a little bit refreshing to actually go through something that's quite not 14 episodes long or quite, I don't know, 15 episodes long or even longer. It's just nice to have something you can go through just in 5 or 4 episodes, which is just, long enough. It is really long enough if you just think about it as, okay, it's still half an hour. So it's quite a lot. Still, I really think that this is going to be a just really important book and a just really interesting book. And yeah, I do think that there's going to be a lot of things in there that could really help you, and that you could also use, which is something that's incredibly valuable for me, at least, because I always I think, and I think this is also the reason, or it was actually the reason why I've liked How to Win Friends and Influence People so much, was that there was actually something I could do right away. Like, I didn't have to wait for something to just come up so that I actually can try it. I could try it right now. And I was able to try it right now. And this is actually something that I'm, hoping that there is gonna be in this book, that there's actually I think it's a he, that he's actually showing you, okay, you can use this persuasion technique, or you could do this to actually not get pursued by someone, which would be great, which would really be great. So yeah, okay, no window. Thanks, I could have thought about that. Yeah, a little bit too big. Let's make it as small as possible. And that's fucking okay. Still the light. The motherfucking light. Whew. So fucking energetic today. It's amazing. It really is amazing because I'm so fucking So here we go. It's a little bit creamy. It's a little bit red. I don't know why, because I've actually turned off all the filters that I'm having on this thing, because I see. Never ever mind. So this is actually a book, The Methods of Persuasion by Nick Kolenda. Why I've chosen this book? Because it actually has a 5-star rating on this page, on this summary page, which is just incredible, I think, because it's still not Amazon, and it's still not any other book store or book selling company or whatsoever. It's just one singular person that went through so many books. He went through more than 480 books about self-help and whatsoever. And yeah, I'm just really trusting in this person. Because I've met just a lot of great experiences with this website, I think. I guess, this is the only reason. And still, yeah, it is a subjective, opinion on the book and whatsoever. But I do really think that, yeah, there could really be the case that it is actually a great book. Because, he also said that, How to Win Friends and Influence People was a good book, even though I think it only got somehow 4.5 stars or even 4 stars out of 5, which led to an 8 out of 10 rating, I guess. Which was something that I thought okay, why? And it somehow then kind of made sense because he was pointing out something that was quite like, okay, I understand it, or I understood it. And then I was like, okay, I understand it, makes sense. And still there were other just books on top of it, and they were still as good, I guess. And there's been just a great load of books that were quite great on his website. But without further ado, I'm going to start reading it. So the methods of persuasion covers the packaging of information from pre-delivery to post-deliver to dramatically increase the likelihood of compliance. And compliance is obedience to, accordance with, observance of, observation of, and adherence to. And in German it's completely the same thing. Thank you. So Nick Kolenda does a wonderful job, and Methods of Persuasion is one of the best books I've read on persuasion. Please note, I personally filed this review into persuasion and manipulation category, as persuasion techniques can be used for manipulation as well. However, Nick Kolenda, the author, is adamantly against manipulation. And this is also something that I want to tell you. And this was actually also one of the things that Jordan Belfort pointed out in his book, or in his course actually, that I've also been going through on this website. It was at the straight line persuasion. He also pointed out, okay, you could totally use the techniques that he's showing you for negative things and things that are not right. And I would really just, I hope everything is good. Why did it turn? I hope there was no sound or something, which could actually be the case, who knows. But yeah, so Jordan Belfort in his book and of course, I think there's both things. There's a book and a course on his straight line persuasion that I've been also going through on this channel or on this podcast. And it was quite interesting, I guess. And it was somehow like, I thought I would get more out of it, to be honest, as I remember correctly, which is the downside of these short, quote-unquote, summaries, because they're still long, These summaries on the PowerMoves.com websites are still long. They're still long, like, compared to the AlanChang.com website, it's just nothing. It really isn't, but it's still a lot. But yeah, so also Jordan Belfort pointed out, okay, you could also use these techniques to manipulate others. And he said, you should not do this. And I'm also saying, you should not do this because why? I think you could use them to just kind of try them out, I guess. And I think it would be just really interesting if they're actually working. And therefore I'm just, really pumped to go through this because maybe you can get something out of it. So the full summary. Honestly, I was not looking forward to summarizing methods of persuasion. I like and pride myself of doing a great job with my summaries, but there's so much stuff that I couldn't for the life of me do a proper summary of methods of persuasion without using too much of the author's material, and my summaries are not a replacement of the full product, which is completely true, even though, the AlanChang.com website, for example, is, has so detailed summaries, it's still not a replacement for the whole book. It is to some degree. I really have to say, I'm really feeling sometimes because they're so long and so detailed and so accurate, at least they seem to be, because I don't, obviously know because I haven't been going through the whole book. But it will never be a replacement for the whole book because a book is just for me like an experience somehow, and it really gives you a certain experience when you're reading it. And therefore, if you're just replacing it with some sort of a summary without all these stories or I still just really have to see what the How to Win Friends and Influence People summary is on the AlanChang.com website, and then I could actually just somehow rate it, like, okay, is it actually a replacement? Even though, it's somehow not like that true or not that good if you just only say it because of one book, because it doesn't mean, or it doesn't have to be like, okay, he's just doing always that good of a job in every single book. So but still, for me it's an experience, and for me it's some sort of a journey as well. So yeah. But anyway, here is my trying to give you a taste. The overview. Methods of Persuasion presents a series of 7 steps, which the author says conveniently adds to the acronym methods. The first one is mold their perception. The second one is elicit congruent attitudes. The third one is trigger social pressure. The fourth one is habituate your message. The fifth, optimize your message. The sixth, drive their momentum. And the seventh one is sustain their compliance. The first 4 steps are delivered before the request, before you're actually asking for what you're willing to get somehow. And step 4 and 5 during the request, and the last steps are after the request. So 1 to 4 for not being included. So 1, 2, 3 are actually before you're making the request, 4 and 5 during the request, and 6 and 7 then afterwards. So before the request. Let's start with before the request. Prime their mindset. And I'm pretty looking forward to this actually. It's just amazing. Because actually, to kind of drift away once again, before this episode I was actually like, okay, I want to just go through a millionaire interview and this is it for today. But I thought as I was just, opening it and as I was just reading the first few lines to actually see what the millionaire interview is all about, I was like, no, it doesn't feel right somehow. And it doesn't feel to be like the right thing to do at this certain moment. And then I was like, okay, let's have a look at the alanjang.com website. Maybe there's something that I could use. Maybe there's something that I'm so interested in that I'm still going to go through it, even though it's really long. And then I was like, oh, there were actually some other websites as well, which were really, really fucking great, like the SamuelThomasDavis.com website, or the PaulMiners.com website, or the PowerMoves.com website. They are all so great websites. And then I just decided to go through all of them and just see whether I can find something that's great, something that I'm just interested in, and something that I think could give value to you as well. And then I just found this piece of jewelry or something. I don't fucking know. Nevertheless, prime their mindset. You can make people think about a certain topic by simply mentioning topics that remind them of a certain subject. For example, if you remind women of their gender, you activate the stereotype of being bad at math and you can lower their math performance. There was actually an experiment on this, and I just really feel right now, even though it's just the second paragraph of this whole thing, that it was just an incredibly tough job to actually summarize this whole piece. Because I would totally say, if it's not coming up, so if this experiment is not coming up in the next few paragraphs, it isn't in this summary. So, but I really think that he in the book actually explained it and was talking about it and whatsoever. To kind of quickly explain it, as I just know, or as I just remember correctly, or if I just remember correctly, it was actually, I think, a maths test. There were actually 2 groups, like one with men and one with women. And the thing is, you can't say, all women are bad at maths and, all men are good at maths. I'm not that good of a math guy. I'm just somehow decent. I just really have to say, when I'm learning and when I'm just, knowing what I'm doing, I'm somehow decent. But if I'm not knowing what I'm doing, then I'm completely shit. It's what it is. But the thing, if I'm remembering correctly, is that the people actually had to write down their gender on the piece of paper, or they actually there was a test that was where we're standing like, okay, you're a woman, or this is your gender and whatsoever, something like this. I'm not remembering it. I think correctly, some sort of correctly, to be honest, but it was something like this. So maybe you'll look it up, but it just reminded them that they're actually women. This is it, and this is quite actually what they have said as well. So it also works outside of our awareness. Also read Brainwashed and Biology with buy and ology, like buy, I'm buying something. If you want your target to be more open-minded, then a much better way than telling them to be open-minded albeit that might work too. If you know how to do it, you might talk about something which is related to open-mindedness. For example, a story of someone doing something crazy and having a blast while learning and growing from it. And there you can see, okay, storytelling is still very, very powerful. And I think that's just a reason why marketers and so many other people just are using it. Like, there has to be a reason. There just really has to be one. My note, which is a note from the author, I guess, of the summary. I wish Colenda had mentioned the limitations of this technique, since schemes, I think it's schemas, are very personal and dependent on background and personal life experiences. You can never be sure what will activate what. In his own example in the book, he wanted to prime the readers for a carrot, but since I'm Italian, the first vegetable that sprung to my mind was tomato. Yeah. Since I'm Italian, like, it's for every single Italian the same thing. It could actually be the case, not like exactly, not like for every single Italian, but I think for the majority it could actually be the truth. Like, our culture and our society and the people that are around us just really have an impact on us, even though it was actually something that I've always been like, okay, no, the people around me don't actually just, have an impact on me. And they really have, but I just haven't noticed. And the second one is anchor their perception. Anchoring is so powerful that we fall for it even when we know we are being anchored. And when we are in a new situation with no anchor, we try to come up with our own anchor, which is the self-generated anchor. An anchor is powerful because we tend to move from the anchor to the outer reaches of our range for whatever phenomenon or price we are considering. When dealing with semantic categories, depending on the situation, we can also adjust away from the anchor. For example, if you ask me to assess the calories of a Big Mac after mentioning lettuce. In negotiations, you should start with the highest number you can get away with. So in negotiation, you should start with the highest number you can get away with. Like, is it the highest number you could actually just, get the thing for? Or is it like the highest number you would pay? Well, it would somehow make sense. If you're I don't know, is it about the person who's actually kind of selling it? Or is it about the person who's actually buying it? I don't fucking know. This is the problem right now. Aber, I just said aber, which is the German word for but. I'm somehow just mixing it up sometimes, even when I'm just in school or somewhere else, I'm just, kind of bringing in some English words as well. I don't know why, but I didn't actually get the whole anchor thing. So anchoring is so powerful that we fall for it even though blah, 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 blah. An anchor is powerful because we tend to move from the anchor to the outer reaches of our range for whatever phenomenon or price we are considering. When dealing with semantic categories, depending on the situation, we can also adjust away from the anchor. Yeah. So when presenting options, you should use a decoy to make your favorite option seem better. What is a decoy? A decoy is like a lure, a bait, red herring, enticement, inducement, temptation, and or attraction. So when presenting options, you should use a decoy to make your favorite option seem better. Which would make sense. And I guess people will just do it subconsciously already. Like, an example maybe. Like, it completely would make sense if you're like, okay, you're selling something to someone and you're being like, okay, you have these two options. The first one is, okay, it is like you get this and that and you get this extra bonus and it looks way fresher and, the other people, like, I think it's always a good one to be like, okay, and the other people will view you as a very attractive and a very just masculine guy and whatsoever. And the other one is just, great as well, but, it's somehow feminine. I guess, it could actually work. It could really actually work. I don't know why, but I think it's just something that a lot of humans and a lot of just people already do. Like, yeah, why wouldn't they? Like, the one thing is just more expensive and the other one is not, and you want to just sell the more expensive one, then you would totally be like, okay, this one is way just more expensive, which is something but you wouldn't say it like this. But you are like, okay, it has this bonus and it is that great and whatsoever. But I'm still a little bit, it kind of bothers me that the anchor is actually not explained. Yeah, let's go on. So elicit congruent attitudes. If you can make the person act, stand, or think in a way which is congruent with the action or message you want them to espouse, chances are they will follow through. What happens is that they see themselves acting a certain way and they adjust their own beliefs and attitudes to match their actions. So if you can make the person act, stand, or think in a way which is congruent with the action or message you want them to espouse, chances are they will follow through. With the action or message you want them to espouse. What does espouse mean? It's just like expose or something? Adopt. It kind of makes sense. The first thing that I was actually thinking about was I hope, by the way, funny thing is, if it is really the case, if this video is going to be chosen for a drinking game, actually, then I hope that you're just not overdoing it, actually. Yeah, actually, I'm just really hoping that the people who are actually just knowing what I'm talking about are actually viewing this video or the podcast. No matter, I just don't give a fuck. I really hope they do. Shout out to the people. Shout out to the people who are playing a drinking game because of me saying actually. I kind of found it funny, actually, to be really honest. But yeah, so what happens is that they see themselves acting a certain way and they adjust their own beliefs and attitudes to match their actions, which would make sense. The thing is, what I was talking about, to just, come back to the point that I was willing to make, if you just tell them, or if you're able to move them or let them move in a way that they actually somehow seem to be happy, like just moving very energetically, just springing around, like being, like just thinking about a girl, I don't know why, and just, some flower grass kind of thing, like, in the Alps somehow, I don't know why. But like, jumping around, being happy, just smiling, whatever. Does this then also mean that that this person is also just like getting more happy? Like, the thing is, I know that, the human body and the human mind are so correlated and so connected that it's just some kind of even impossible that it could not be the case. Like, but it would be interesting if you can make it, like, yeah. And also the other way around, but I do not actually think if they actually mean like just feelings and or emotions, but I just talking about actions and messages. So if you can let them think, to take advantage of our need to present congruent behavior, Colena describes the foot in the door technique, the low ball technique, the elicitation of an attitude, which can be as simple as asking, "How are you?" What is an elicitation? Draw. So evoke or draw out a reaction, answer, or fact from someone. Okay, so to take advantage of our need to present congruent behavior, Colena describes the foot in the door technique, the low ball technique, and the elicitation of an attitude, which can be as simple as asking, "How are you?" I'm just really willing to see what it is all about. We could go through this, actually. We could go through this just pretty quickly. to just see what it is all about. So the lowball technique is a science-based step-by-step guide. The lowball techniques, such as making a very low offer compared to the ask price, is a great way to get a bargain. But it is a high-risk crapshoot because it risks and annoys the sellers. No, it irks and annoys the sellers. This article will walk you through the step of science-backed, field-proven lowball technique, which works almost every time. So the lowball technique, a walkthrough. This HBNV on eBay classifies as exactly what I wanted, except you guessed it, for the price. Don't make enemies. Now, what most people would do and would do wrong is to lowball right away, or only marginally better. Lowball after a neutral question that does nothing useful for you. For example, is it still available? Let's first understand why it is not the ideal way. Why you don't lowball. There's much truth in the saying that people don't buy products, but they buy people, like, whom they like. But most are much less careful with the other side of the equation. People also sell to people whom they like. Totally true. And often we would rather lose money than sell to people we don't like. Which makes sense. Empathy. I'm just thinking about empathy, being nice, being kind, being just all these things that I'm preaching and that I'm fucking Gary Vee is also preaching all the fucking time. It just makes more and more sense, which is the beauty of actually going through all these things, all these books, all these articles, all these millionaire summaries, all these summaries, actually articles, interviews, all these podcasts and all these things that I'm actually somehow consuming. It's just great. And yeah, so this notion has been scientifically proven in many experiments, most famously the ultimatum game, and by neuroscience MRI scans showing that lowball offers stimulate the part of the brain associated with disgust. In a nutshell, lowball offers disgust us and we switch to vendetta mode. No wonder so many lowball offers end up getting spurned, ignored, or it happened to provoking violent reactions. The great book Never Split the Difference is also based on the principle of not making enemies, which is also a book that I've gone through on this podcast and or on this channel as well. By the way, is it as possible? Why is it so fucking big? Yeah, never mind. As you can see, this is a slider of all the posts that are quite uploaded in the last few days on my Instagram. If you want to check them out, and if you want to actually see the whole thing, because as you can see, it's not the whole thing, please go to the description of the podcast if you're on the podcast, and or in the description of this video if you're on YouTube, and check out, all my social media links, whatever you're most familiar with or the most convenient for you, like, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Tumblr, actually, but I'm not doing anything on it. LinkedIn is great. Quora, which is 100% great. And yeah, would really be nice for me. I would really appreciate that. So what do you do then? Enter up psychology and report. Should I start with it? Yeah, I should start with it. So the second thing is ask a Trojan question. To set up the lowball offer, ask what I've baptized the Trojan, like the Trojan horse question. A Trojan question is a question where you already know the answer will highly defect and you already know the answer will highly defects and problems. Never mind, but you already know the answer and it does something. So if you're buying a house that needs renovation, for example, you don't attack saying, but it needs renovation. You ask if they think it needs renovation. I get it. You know why? Because if you're being like, okay, this house needs renovation, it's very shitty, why would I buy this shit? It is your opinion and it's what you are thinking. If you're going to the person And if you're asking them, does this house, at your point of view, need any renovation? And they're saying yes, it is their thought. It is what they have thought about. It's what they have said, not you. And it is somehow in their mind. It's somehow in their system. It's something they believe. And as we might by now know, and what maybe only I, hopefully not I, because maybe you've just gone through other episodes where I've been talking about it, people like to have their own things, whether it be their own car, whether it be their own thoughts, whether it be their own ideas. People like these things, or it actually seems to be like this, and I'm understanding it somehow. Like, yeah, it's nice to have my own idea. It's nice to see my own logo here on the wall, like on a house. And this is just something that I think you're creating then. So you ask if they think it needs renovation. Defenses go down, and when they say yes, you ask how much it could be. And now you're safely hinting at ask price minus renovation costs. I understand this. So similarly, I ask if the computer has SSD memory, which I already know or knew it hasn't. Hello Philip, is the drive SSD or SD-RAM? Many thanks, Lucio. And as expected, he replied, it's not. So hello Lucio. The funny thing is, he's actually speaking German. So he says, hallo Lucio or Lucio, which is hallo like hello. Leider keine der beiden, sondern HDD. Gruß. Sorry, it's not both of them, it's an HDD. It's not an SD-RAM, it's not an SDD, it's an HDD. Greetings, Philip. Like, yeah. Now, because it doesn't have the feature you were looking for and you're already engaged in a conversation, as opposed to starting with a lowball offer, you won't raise nearly as much hostility. And on your next message, you will report, prepare the ground for a second attack with your Trojan compliment. Is it short? I'm just going to go give it to you. A Trojan compliment is a compliment hiding another critic. This is the best way to safely keep criticizing the product by staying friendly. If you're buying a house, you could say, oh, okay, I see renovations are expensive. Well, I like the location though, and it looks like the traffic noise is barely audible. Set it on a Sunday with traffic being 3 times higher during weeks. Smiley face. It's like, I understand it. Like, I hope you're understanding as well. So I'm going to read it once again if you haven't understood, because I may not have just read it correctly. So, well, I like the location though, and it looks like the traffic noise is barely audible. Set it on a Sunday, which is in brackets, set it on a Sunday with traffic being 3 times higher during weeks. Smiley face. So with a Trojan compliment, you fully focus the seller's mind on the negatives of the product, making it much more likely he will seriously consider your low ball offer. In our example, it went like this. Okay, I understand, but it's still a good machine and it looks like it doesn't have any scratches. I would offer 280 and can meet you this week and pay. What do you think? Apologize for my terrible German and best regards, Lucio. The passage is explained. Doesn't have any scratches. Trojan compliments, as I could see, a small one. Ready to move on. Yeah, I don't know. Like with the scratches, it could be actually like, okay, if he's saying this, I will take it. He's seeing no scratches, so he will buy the full price. Could actually be the thing. Also the same thing with the HDD and SSD. And it's like, okay, then just, go and look for another PC. Like, just go away. Would be something that I thought, or would think like. But I guess, and I think we will actually see over the course of this small section of the whole summary actually, which is somehow great to actually make it a little bit smaller or shorter, the actual summary. But yeah, ready to move on as fast as possible. benefit for him to sell it quickly. Maybe he already got a new one? Question mark. What do you think makes the seller feel respected and in charge? You just made an offer, but he is the final decision maker. 280 even numbers are perceived as bigger, and it is slightly more than half, with half being a major psychological threshold. The thing is, what I've also learned is that you should actually not use even numbers. Like, better would, at my point of view, would be 288 or 287 or 85. Something like this. It's slightly higher, but the thing is, it seems to be more. Like, even though you're saying, okay, it's maybe 295 or 90, 95. I wouldn't go through 93.2 or something, even though some people have said it, and I don't remember in which book it was. But it was quite about, okay, you know what you're willing to get, and you know what you're willing to buy for it. You want to give for it, actually. Sorry for my terrible German. I'm scratching myself to communicate in your language. Mistakes can be enduring. Well, I would just go through the whole fucking thing. Yeah, so the fourth one is leverage, question, and compliments. He tells me it has a small scratch, exactly what I was angling for, and he accepts my offer if I got pick it up. Bingo, I use both information to another price reduction, which now seems very fair. It's a bit far, but okay. Is it okay for you if you make 250 because I'll need to take time off from work? I can be there this week. How's your schedule? So is it okay for you if you make 250? And he accepts. Note, I say it's far before accepting. I'm highlighting its concession, and concession giving calls for concessions back. Because always make your point stronger and more likely to be accepted, even when because adds no real information. So the lowball technique, the result, 50% discount on a fairly priced item plus mouse and Bluetooth dongle gift. With the next move, sold old laptop above its value, and for 76 euros moved from an old 2010 clunker running Vista to a sleek all-in-one touchscreen quad-core 65-bit Windows 10 with remote. All thanks to great lowball technique and auction sales techniques. Which is would be another one we could go through. So the lowball technique summary. Results will differ from case to case, but you'll learn the main issues with the lowball technique, and you certainly will improve your high hit ratio by doing the following. On your first message, ask a drawing question with negative answer. Make a drawing compliment hiding a critique, make your lowball offer and be kind. Use this reply for further discounts, concessions, and tell you're ready to move. And use it with ethics. Totally true. Yeah, I hope you've liked this episode, and I do think there was something in it for you. With that being said, I hope you get the best health, wealth, and